everyone, the name is Nimble Jr. and I am here with I'm going to say this. I am here with I see as my interviewing mentor. Because not just an interviewing mentor, but an absolute gem on the EDM community, being a female DJ artist. That is Miss Lizzy Jane, owner of the XO Podcast and XO Radio. Literally blessed the stage with Lost Lands and has blessed so many different places out there with like different types of tours and stuff like that. Now today, this is her debut Brooklyn show at the Base Olympics, blessing us with her presence. And I just want to tell you right here right now, while there's still some time left, I just want to tell you thank you. Not only thank you for letting me have a chance to finally speak with you, but thank you so much for being such a huge inspiration for me to want to like do something like this and give back to the EDM community, give back to the genre that has saved my life. I said before, again, without your music, without this type of community, I don't know where I would be mentally and or physically. So I just want to quickly say thank you so much for everything that you are and everything that you have done so far. But I definitely know this, that the journey to get to where we are now to get to your goals and see everything you want to complete, it has not been easy. So what made you want to like create such incredible music for the community?
First off, thank you so much for the kind words. It literally means so much. I'm so glad that like you've taken the time and put forth energy and work and effort to develop your own skills to give back to the community, because that's what it's like all about, 100%. And like sitting down with artists, having transparent conversations, and just giving people like a different kind of alleyway and vision into the electronic dance music community, because it's such a special place, and like people like yourself keep it going on all sides, and like I love that. Thank you so much for the kind words. But yes, it's been quite a journey. I'm so happy to have my first headline show here. I actually haven't been here since pre-COVID, so it's been since 2019. Before that, I was here and I played support at like Webster Hall and Szymanski's, and I came here on the Snails tour, and it was like all an accumulation to what is happening now. And I think a lot of people don't really understand the back end to how long it really takes an artist to grow and create their vision and then get people on board and then develop fans and develop friends and collaborate with other artists. And I'm really, really thankful to be here to begin with, and that people buy tickets to see me and people listen to the podcast, people listen to the music, and I'm really excited. I feel like this is kind of a beginning of a new chapter where I started as a dubstep artist, I started as a bass music act, I come from metal, I come from being a band, doing music my whole entire life, said I don't want to depend on anybody, so I'm going to start producing, I'm going to do everything from the production, the mixing and mastering process. And then I came to a point in COVID and I said, okay, I left my residency in Tampa, I'm doing what I want to do, I did the Peekaboo tour, I've done one-offs, what do you really want to do with this project? What are you really going to incorporate moving forward? And that's when I said every track moving forward, I'm going to sing. Every collaboration I'm moving forward, not only am I going to produce, but I'm also going to sing. And now, with the new EP on the way, which is like 7 tracks, super cohesive, like that's what I'm going to be doing moving forward. I do have singles that I'm excited to release, but the EP and the conceptualized vision of work that you can kind of like present to a fan base and present to listeners is building the live show, incorporating instruments, keeping the bass foundation, and really developing like a really unique path for myself. And lots of time, lots of mistakes, lots of effort. Thankfully I have a wonderful team. I think that everybody's journey, you can learn from somebody else's, but you're still gonna have your own. You're still gonna make your own mistakes, and I think that goes for anybody, whether you're a podcaster, an A&R, an agent, an artist, all of that stuff. Like developing in this industry is always gonna be different for everybody, and I think that's what makes it so special.
That is amazing to hear, and thank you so much for everything that you said. I mean, I was just making sure I didn't want to interrupt because, this is for someone like you to be this educated and for you to like really put your name out there and let people know this is Lizzy Jane, this is who I am, this is what I want to give to the community, and every time I create something, I want to do something to elevate that. So that's amazing to hear, but I'm curious to know, like, are any of you kind of want to outdo yourself with each and every song that you make. Are there any like songs that like really mean like a lot to you that make you feel like, oh my gosh, I think I just made gold, and this is something that I feel like if I had to show one song to someone out there in the world that this is me, I would choose this song?
Home. that like home, 100%.
With Purge.
With Purge. Who now he started his own project, and I don't even know if he wants anybody to know who it is, but he's incredibly successful on his next journey, his next chapter. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize, that there's so many people, like Peekaboo's a good example, there's so many huge names that really develop their craft over time, and then they start a new project and they just pop the fuck off. And it's like so incredible. But yes, that was the first person that not only like co-writing but collaborating. I always learn something when I collaborate with another artist, because there's a million ways to do the same thing. And it's really interesting to learn techniques and use their own experience and go back and forth. And I'm huge on like collaborating efforts and co-writing and all of that. And I just knew when I heard Home, the final of it, I was like, this is the establishment of the first song in my discography that's going to establish who I am as an artist, 100%.
No matter what set you play, we're going to hear Home.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I end with Home almost every single time, because it's just it's hard, because I feel like coming up on this EP release and coming up on other singles that I have, like singles with Craymac, and I have an awesome remix for Griffin dropping next week on Interscope, which is like my biggest remix to date. It comes out next Friday on April 21st. I'm so fucking excited. And it's drum and bass. So on top of that, it's like, there we go. That's literally that's the response I want. And I will be playing that tonight, so I'm so excited. That's like the response, like he's the visual response that I want everybody in my life and all of my supporters to have when I announce it, because it's like, it's a huge deal. Like,
no, if I was a visual response, my head was going to explode right now, like scanners. But anyway, that is amazing to hear. I'm so happy that someone as incredible as Griffin has seen the passion in you, and I'm so happy that someone like him, let's be honest, I know it's about you, but Griffin, and that hearing all the remixes he did, like, first of all, let's say this. The Colors remixes that I've been hearing, like we had Reaper, we had Zippy, like really small people, like you like also spoke to that in your XO podcast. I'm so happy there are big artists like him and they're like really highlighting the little guys out there. I feel like that's also what like drives you in your XO podcast. Like you want to like shine a light on the little guys out there. I think I remember reading one of your interviews, I think with I believe it was with EDM Identity, you said that you said like with your radio podcast, like all the other Sirius XM like radios, you want to like really shine a light on the little guys out there, like really let them be on a huge.
Because that's the next wave, you know, and they're doing stuff that's so boundary pushing. They're doing stuff that's not what you're hearing from Millennium, from Griffin, from all of these.
No offense to you guys are amazing.
No offense to you guys, but like to evolve. Just EDM in general, you have to push boundaries and you have to try and see what works. And I'll always use Omar, More Kismet, as a great example. And people who really, and now I look at people like Cyclops, I look at very small names who have kind of are not small names anymore, and they did their own thing for so long, and at first it's kind of like, ooh, what are they doing? This isn't the standard. This kind of sounds, the mixing may not be there. The technical aspects are like, oh wow, this is different. But then it stays different, and then you listen and you listen and you listen, and then you're like, wow, I love this.
But here's the thing. Why? Maybe I'll ask you this. Why is it that people are so scared of things that are different? Because that's the thing I wonder. Like,
I think that's society in general. I think people are just really scared of change and really scared of different things, because change and difference scares them. If you look kind of like out of the scope of electronic dance music, I think EDM is such a home for people like you and me, because at one point in time, everybody was kind of misfits. Everybody's like, oh, I didn't really fit in, but I fit in here. I fit in at the club show, I fit in at the festival, because everybody was so accepting of difference and change.
Right. I would say for me, like the reason why I was lured to EDM was because I knew it was not going to follow the crowd and like follow the whole mainstream thing. People were, all the songs I've been hearing had words and stuff like that, but here's the thing. When I heard like EDM music, oh my god, I made the biggest mistake ever. I said EDM music.
Love it.
No, when I listen to electronic dance music, like more of the underground stuff like that, I said to myself, like this, it was just no words, it was just melodies. It was nothing but just music, nothing but just pure, unadulterated sound. And it lured me because I felt like it was finally something I was hearing that made me feel like I can finally be free. I can finally like let my true self be expressed. I still remember the one time I heard songs like, let's say, Dead Weight from Zomboy. I'm using a lot of Zomboy stuff, like that's like one of my biggest inspirations. So Vancouver Beatdown, Nuclear, Hands Up, we're talking Hoedown, we're talking Save the City, stuff like that, Raptor, like all those songs I was listening to made me think like, oh my gosh, like no words, but it speaks to my heart, it speaks to my body, and I should not be afraid to express this to the world. I'll never forget the day I was ridiculed when I introduced like people, like this was during the Chainsmokers, like Don't Let Me Down, like this that time. I introduced people to the Zomboy remix. I played that out like in the class. Everyone was like, no, oh yeah, like don't let me down. And then the drop comes and it's like, who the f are you? Yeah. Playing this type of song. Yeah. And it's like I didn't care. It's something I liked, it's something I enjoyed, and why should I be afraid to even talk about it or even show that? Because it makes me happy, it makes me feel good. But if you don't like it, then okay, that's fine. But I guess the world wasn't ready for that.
No, 100%. And I think that, one, it's caught on. One, bass music is huge now. I mean, I even think about the difference when I started 5 years ago to now. And it's everywhere. I mean, everything from Excision's kind of, family to Wakan and Liquid Strangers family and everything in between. And it's so wonderful to see the growth, and it's so wonderful to see, like, you're not alone in feeling that way. And there's tons of people who I think felt a bit isolated and like, ooh, like I'm liking this music that like isn't top 40s, that isn't on the radio, that isn't X, Y, and Z. And now it's at the forefront of so many music collectives.
I remember freaking out when I saw that a certain song was in the Billboard Top 8, and it was like something totally different. It was a song Gristronics. It was a song Gristronics with Grizz Subtronics. I was like, wait, people actually are enjoying stuff like this? Like it's finally entering the mainstream? Yep. Could it possibly? Until it kind of went down, and it was like, okay, maybe it was just a fad. But again, I was happy to finally see that it was like top 10. Mm-hmm. So it's like maybe there is something happening. Maybe there is something that's changing, and maybe we need more people to really express that out to the world.
Definitely.
And I hope that with your with your works like your Interscope EP and whatever's coming up next, I hope that you can also I'll be so happy to hear your music in the mainstream as well, like in certain media, commercials, whatever. I mean, for Rez and Death Path, they had Chemical Bond being played by Apple. Yeah. That was insane. Oh my god. So I feel like if something like Rez, someone as legendary as Rez can do that, why not you?
Absolutely. And I think that's coming with the next generation 100%. I mean, like it's really interesting, like speaking of just like the remix for Griffin, it was like the first time that I kind of ever had a label be like, hey, we need an instrumental, we need this, because that's what they're doing. They're pitching it for commercials, they're pitching it for video games, they're pitching it without the lyrics. And it's like, it's really cool that, producers have such a skill set and artists have such a skill set that I think a lot of people have like a closed-minded vision of like, oh, like this is gonna be my journey, this is gonna be my career, my main goal is to get signed and then play all these festivals and da-da-da. They don't realize how many times their music can be utilized in different things. And how many times their skill set can be utilized to work on Pixar and write for Hulu and then still play the shows and still make your own music. And I think that there's more people who are open-minded to doing that now because of things like Chemical Bond showing up in Apple Music, because of things getting split deals in huge movies and huge commercials,
Is there like any show or maybe movie that you wish you could hear your music in?
I'm a big snowboarder, so I would love
SSX?
Literally. I would really love to hear some of the new music that I think is honestly incredibly realistic, because it's a lot more to me. It definitely has bass influences, but it's really, my definition of the EP coming up is just electronic music. It's electronic dance music. It's like everything's so different. Like you're gonna hear a different piece in each single, different influences, different sounds. No one song is the same. I definitely feel like they're like legitimate records with like, chorus, verses, drops, all of that stuff really compiled into one piece of art. And that's why it's taken so long, because I'm like, hey, like this means so much to me and I'm sharing so much of myself. And this is the first time I feel like I've really ever done that with the platform I have. And it's a little nerve-wracking because you're like, oh wow, I'm like giving up so much of a piece of myself and so much time that I've spent, curating this piece of art. But all of the instrumentals, I could see somebody flying down a mountain to. I could see somebody like Burton, Patagonia, like all of those guys. Like I would love to be in their commercials. I would love to have my music there.
Or maybe in the X Games?
Like something like the X Games. I feel like I would love to like looking towards the future, like there are labels out there who have really good relationships with video games, like I think it's Valorant and like all those guys like Rocket League, like all that stuff. I would love to have my music in there.
And speaking of those two, I mean, hello, Valorant, they have Dabbit and Grabbits, Die For You.
Yep.
And then Rocket League, we have Monster Cats, and so many other legendary people on that list too. I mean, hello, we have Cascade on Rocket League.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of big.
It's huge.
So I hope, I mean, again, next up needs to be you. I mean, maybe not with Monster Cat or whatever, but like just you doing your own thing. Hopefully, Interscope Records, if you're hearing this, remember those names. Valorant, Rocket League. Hey, I hate to say this, but you know what? Let's do Fortnite too. Why not? Why the freak not?
Right? Absolutely. And I think that like, in all honesty, there are so many up and coming acts. Like you see that working with Electric Hawk, like the Music Fridays. Like Electric Hawk does a really good job. Like shout out Miguel, shout out Daniel, Dario,
and thank you
all
so
those
much
guys.
for showing up in Harmony Fest. We really appreciate that.
Oh my god. And like that was like such a fucking like dope thing that they were able to do. And like, but like what I was saying is just there's so many artists kind of not aiming to do their own thing. I just think that right now there's an accumulation of so many people trying to be in the same lane. And I really think the only way that you're going to break through and really do something is by doing it differently.
Get off that lane.
Yeah.
Get off the rat race.
Yep. Yeah.
My gosh, like I feel like you should like make sure like make that Instagram post. I know a lot of your posts like you were putting like a lot of like speeches, like monologues, like inspirational stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just put that there.
That's it.
Like if you want to like make your own thing, get off the lane, get off the rat race, jump off the wheel.
Yeah.
You're not a hamster. You're a human being.
It is that, but I also have respect where it's like from an outsider looking in, just like we all were at one point. It's like, okay, this is like, oh, they're doing that, so like I'm gonna try and follow in their footsteps and understand the industry and understand the business and understand how to make dubstep and understand how to make house music. But right now there's so many resources that people like Cascade and Virtual Riot and Funkies didn't have because they were making things from scratch. But now somebody in my shoes, if I'm just starting out, I have Splice and I have YouTube and I have all of these master classes and I have all of these people teaching one-on-ones. So what's gonna make you different? Besides your branding, besides your vision, like what's gonna make you really stand out? I'll always say learn all the rules just so you can break them. That's what I tell all of my students that I teach production to, is like you can learn this and you can understand the technical behind to it, you can understand how to EQ and look at the spectrum and da-da-da-da, and some of those things have to happen for it to sound quote unquote good, but there's no real definition. Like you have to learn those things and then you just start to develop your sound. And like for me, like my sound is always gonna be my voice in the music. It's gonna be, I sing, this is my imprint in the music, this is how I do it. Where if I'm talking to like a really heavy like dubstep producer, it's like, okay, like they're using the same processing on the same snares, and every time I hear that snare and every time I hear this bass, I'm gonna be like, holy shit, that's Virtual Riot. Holy shit, that's Funkies. I know that with listening,
Yes.
And we're in a really exciting time where there's a lot of awesome music, but I think to break through and be like an actual headliner and be able to not play support for the rest of your life and like make your own lane and make an actual income and a living, and not, you can be on this huge agency and you can get paid not even a livable wage, and you can play support forever. But the only way you're not going to play support is if you're not doing what everybody else is doing.
Right.
But that takes longer. It's the harder path. It's the harder road taken. But
the road less traveled.
100%. But if you can do that and you have a vision to do that and you get there, it's so worth it.
And you're like the perfect example of that.
We're building from the ground up. I played support forever, and now it's like,
look at you now.
Having these headline shows, yes, does it make me nervous? Yes, am I like, ticket count. I've annoyed Sean's ass all fucking week because I'm asking Kyle, like, where's the tickets at? Where are the tickets at? Because that's the only way that I can build the way I want to build, is by taking
it shows that you care.
Our data, like I'm a fucking mathematician, and being like, hey, she sold 250 tickets in this market. Okay, now we're moving to a 500 cap venue. Okay, Izu, hey, she can push 1,000 tickets in this market. Why are you booking people who can't push tickets in this market? So it definitely is it's like kind of anxiety driven, but it's a choice I've made. All of, actions have consequences, reactions, all of that stuff. And my choice and how I want to pursue my project is by building from the ground up. And you've got to play small venues. You've got to build a community. Community is so important too. I was talking to Maddie O'Neill on the podcast, and it's like, especially with Pretty Lights coming back, You know, it's like community focus and community building is such an important part of being that massive act on the back end. Look at Grizz's community, look at Cyclops Army, look at, you know, Rez, look at all of those guys. The community is everything. It's everything. You know, you want to be able to go onto your Discord, not have said anything for weeks, and have a conversation going every minute of every day. Right. And that's building a successful community. But it takes years. It takes a really fucking long time, you know?
You are absolutely right, and I'm so honored and blessed you can give us some that advice to everyone. So to everyone who's listening to that, I hope you guys are taking notes how, like, you know, really do engagement. Electric Clock, you can take some notes too. No offense to you, Daryl, I love you so much.
I love Daryl. He was actually one of the first people. He was, I had Mode Step, I had Charm, and then I had Daryl.
Yep, he was the third episode, I believe.
When we were in COVID, and I was just like, hey, like, I love what you're doing, because it was the same thing. He was shining he was shining light on not the big players.
Right.
And like that's what Electric Hawk has continued to do. I mean, they do for the big players for sure, but like I really feel like the passion and the focus behind Electric Hawk is like bringing the underground to the forefront, and I love that because there's not a lot of people doing that. But you can see people that they've supported, and now you see them on Dancing Astro. Now you see them on your EDM. Now you see them on EDM.com. All of
and Comic Creation, he was in Space Camp with Grizz. So
yeah, they put people on, and I live in Denver now too, and it's like. It's such a dope community. Denver's very, very cool. Coming from Florida, where it's like we have only a few venues, and bass music down there's wonderful. Love Pepe, love FK, love SMF, love all those guys. But like Denver is a very special place, and I feel the same way about New York in kind of a different light. But I feel the same way about New York.
Although I don't feel like we have much. I mean, I think all we have in New York is just we have Electric Zoo, of course, but we also have like Governor's Ball, which kind of like, you know, plays with the mainstream people. I feel like it's we need like more like places, more communities, more organizations like really like shine a light on the little guys out there.
100%.
That are shining, and that is why we have someone like Sean and Blada in SynchroEvents existing, because again, it's their job. It's their job to shine a light on these people. I thought, again, like you said, I'm happy to know I was not alone, but I felt like I was the only one who really was invested in the whole EDM thing and like really listened to like, you know, the artists both big and small until I listened to like, you know, SynchroEvents. I've seen these guys as like they're just as passionate as I am. Yeah, they're playing music, but it's music that I would listen to as well, and it made me feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one here. I'm not the odd one out.
100%. Well, that's correct. Like that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is like there's very few people doing what you all are doing, and I think that's the difference between here and Denver, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like New York has like very great atmospheres for A-tier acts like Marquee, Brooklyn Mirage, all of that stuff, and to build an up-and-coming act here is really hard. I've heard agents say it, I've heard managers say it, I've heard a lot of people say building actual ticket value in New York City is very, very difficult. Like to prove yourself, and like you got parties like Elsewhere. I think that would be the next stop after something like this. But then where do you go? You know, like I guess you fight for those tickets to come back and play support at Brooklyn Mirage. So then you're back in the support bucket until you blow the fuck up and can come and sell 20,000 tickets.
Right.
And that's where it's like Denver. They have a path for the up and coming act. Here, not so much.
Right.
They have like more of that like pop ups and underground stuff. But unfortunately, like from the business end of it. Talent buyers don't give a shit about pop-ups and underground shit. They want to see if you can actually sell tickets. And like that's the alleyway that I think you all are providing that is really, really, really cool.
So I wonder though, so what is like the difference, or you could say the pros and cons between like playing something that's like really big and massive like Avant-Garde Nair and Elsewhere, and then like and then of course the pop-ups like the underground places and stuff like that, because I feel like why don't we have more of that type of feeling where like, you know, go back to the roots of how electronic dance music was. Like in the 90s, it was all about the warehouses. It was all about like, you know, everyone coming together, just like doing whatever the heck you want and just like and really feeling the music. And that now you're saying that means nothing now.
Well, I think that it's just like, I think it's really exciting where a night like tonight, I get an opportunity to really, in my opinion, be more of like a DJ. Not like, oh, hey, you have these visuals that are time-coded and you've got your in-ear monitors in and you've got your whole set planned out, and like, I'll always have respect for people who are like, I think John Summit literally made a tweet about this the other day, that like, people who like aren't playing the same, or people who are playing the same set over and over and over again aren't really DJs. And I totally get that. But in bass music and in various types of dance music, there are now other pieces to the puzzle of the pie that make up a full performance. You could never ask someone like Excision to go up there and just fucking freestyle. He's not gonna do that. He's not gonna do that. He's got a whole team behind him that's working incredibly hard to do visuals for every second of every moment, and there's so much beauty in that, but that is a different art than DJing.
Right.
And it's like tonight, it's like, this is one of the few times in the last year I feel like I've had this little like playlist where it's like, hey, this isn't your own music, and this kind of is music that you really like, but it's music that I just love. And I think that's so much of what being like a DJ, quote unquote, is finding those ways to give people what they want to hear without them knowing they want to hear it. And when you have
that's the same words that Dada Life said. I remember one video where he says, it's not about giving people what they want. It's about giving people what they didn't think that they want.
Yeah, like underground shit, new artists, like all of that stuff. And it's come to a point in, I think, bass music, and I mean, even as far as people like Madeon and Porter, where it's like, you feel an obligation to fans, like I know for a fact that Home and my collaboration with Figure are my biggest songs. So if I have people paying to come and see me, I feel like I have to play these songs because I want people to have that moment with me in real life, not them just streaming the song in the car. But then you get to an act like Deadmau, or you get to an act like Porter or Madeon or Excision, and it's like, they have a bajillion songs that everybody's dying to hear, and like, you have to play Rumble, John Summit has to play Where You Are, Deadmau has to play this, like, and it's like, that is the happy medium of almost looking like where EDM is at right now, almost like a band or a pop act, or or a rapper. Because it's like, they have a set list, and you have a set list. And I've seen, playing with Excision, I played with him at the Armory, I played with him at Mission Ballroom, you have a set list. And it's like, you go through those sets, there's cues, there's fires, there's CO2, there's visuals, there's lighting.
Pyrotechnics.
It's one person standing on stage, but it's a team of 40 making it happen. And like, everybody has to understand that from all levels, from the ground up. And it's like, even me today, it's like, I'm constantly talking to him, I'm constantly talking to a media person, I'm constantly talking to my manager. Like, it's not just me, And I think from a very small level to a very big level, that's just how it's done right now.
Right.
But I've also talked to a lot of people like Funkcase, like West End, people on two different ends of the spectrum that prefer playing in clubs like I'm playing tonight.
Right.
Small clubs, bring it back to the roots. They love it. They love it. No, hardly any lights, no LED wall.
No visuals.
And I think that's what's special about tonight is, one, I get to start building my hard ticket value here. I get to share intimate moments of people who are there to see me. It's awesome opening for Adventure Club. I love playing big venues. It's awesome opening for Excision. Those moments, the Armory show in Minneapolis was one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life. I felt like it was just absolutely, it was like magical. Like, I got off stage and I was just like, holy fuck. And like, that's what I feel like I'm built for, and it's really difficult sometimes because like, that's where like that energy is like, I'm a huge like reaction energy person. So when I'm in a very small venue, I can feel just like that if the crowd isn't feeling what I'm doing. And there's like one thing in adapting to a crowd, but then there's also another thing in staying true to your vision and being like, well, I'm gonna play my own fucking music because I'm here and I'm playing, and like, even though you're just staring at me, or I have somebody's back to me who's standing at the front waiting for the headliner, like, I have to do what's me because I know that there's people in this crowd that are gonna walk away loving me. And like, that was the same thing with the Excision show, but there were so many fucking people there that I was like, it doesn't even matter because I can't see anybody's fucking face. I felt like it was just me. But then I walked away and I was like, it wasn't just me. It was me and a shit ton of people, and I thought that was so cool. And I get that feeling from festivals as well, 100%. If I'm on a good stage at a good time, best feeling in the world. But I don't get that personal connection that I get tonight when I get to look people in the eye, I get to sing to people, I get to meet them afterwards and be like, hey, like, we're sharing this together, support the supporting acts and everything else in between. So like, I love both sides of it, but there's pros and cons to both sides of it. And I think as you develop as an act, you realize which one you like better. And I think on my own terms, I'm embarking on this journey for the first time where I am headlining, and I think I'm gonna like that much better than playing very small venues where the people aren't necessarily there to see me. Maybe I have 5 to 10 people who are there. Maybe I have 50 to 100 people who are there. But they just want to hear X artist played this song or X artist played this. I mean, when I was resident, I did I opened for Steve Aoki, I opened for Galantis, I opened for so many people, and it was like, this is great, and there's gonna be new people who discover me, and that's why every time it's like you have to give it your all, because even if one person walks away and says, wow, that was dope, like that was cool, like I'm gonna look this person up and follow them on Spotify, I'm gonna message them, I'm gonna go buy a t-shirt, I'm gonna get a ticket to their next show, like that all accumulates over a certain amount of years to something much bigger, and that's your community that you're building. So it's like, even if you're playing to 5 people, like give it your all. And I think that's where a lot of new acts get a little bit discouraged. You have this like excitement as a new act, like I'm playing shows, I'm fucking here, da da da. And then 2 years go by and you're like, I'm still playing the same shows, I'm here, do people care? Like, are people listening to the music? Da 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 da. But if you just push past that point and you see the bigger vision in it, and like you see the long-term goals, and like I'm a big goal person, short-term, long-term, journal, all of that shit. And like, if you see that and you like keep track of it, it's a lot easier to take a step back and say, we're working towards this, we're working towards this, we're working towards this.
And right now, I feel like you're working towards something that's going to be absolutely amazing. And I'm so honored and blessed to not only be able to see you live, but to really hear and understand the mentality and mindset that is Lizzy Jane. And I hope that more and more artists will have that type of mindset. I hope you guys have been taking notes, because what she said was absolutely freaking incredible. If you want to hear more of this beautiful woman here speak her mind even more with other artists, please subscribe to the XO podcast like I have, and even tamper around the XO radio, because we gotta make sure we give some love to the little guys out there, both big and small. Just make sure we grow the community. And Lizzy Jane, it's an absolute honor, pleasure, and privilege to finally say, to finally meet you, to finally say thank you, and to finally just like really hear someone as angelic as you just really speak your mind about this community, because this is what we need. We need you. I'm so happy you exist in this world. Thank you so freaking much. You have no freaking idea how much you mean to me, how much you mean to this community. And I mean, I'm being very honest here. It's people like you that I aspire to possibly be one day. But again, I feel like it's kind of a double-edged sword for me saying that I want to be like you, because I'm doing these interviews, I want to give back to the community. But
I did the same thing. I listened to people for podcasts forever, and I was like, this is cool. And I talk way too much. And I've done the same.
I've done the same for you as well. I made sure, like, the second I want to do the Grabbits interview, I did him. I said to myself, boy, who else interviewed him? And it was you.
Yeah.
I studied you. I learned about you.
Love it.
And again, I'm not trying to try and copy what you do, but I still want to make sure I keep the passion and keep whatever.
There's so much room in the space, though, and like what you're doing is very unique. And like I didn't even know it was gonna be you interviewing me, or maybe I was told and I just didn't read it all the way through. But you've posted like so many videos supporting me, like Women's Day, new music, like all this stuff. So I'm so happy to be able to sit down with you and like actually.
Right. I feel like what makes me want to stand out is that I'm a person who wants to make sure I ask like the really deep questions. I want to show people that I really do care, and I actually really love this community. 100%. Because I know people have those like silly questions, like someone can act like, no, hey, pineapple on pizza, yes or no, that type of thing. But that's not.
I feel like it's not on the out and out, but there's a space that wasn't utilized in electronic dance music. Now it is. You have my podcast, you have Mitch's podcast, you have the Willie Joy podcast, you have Willie Joy, who's the OG. Willie Joy is the person who I listened to and said, how do I do what he's doing? How do I talk to Alice in Wonderland? How do I talk to Mad God? How do I talk to this and this and this? Wow. And like, there's so much room in this space, because you're not having these types of conversations if I sit down with Dancing Astro or EDM.com, where it's hey, type the responses, we're going to support the release, and da 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 da. And I think there's beauty in that, because I think people have very short attention spans, but then I think there's a lot of people who want to know more, and nobody's ever covered the more. Nobody's ever let somebody just talk, and this is what this is for.
And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm here. So again, it's not trying to be like the next Lizzy Jane. I'm just trying to be the first me and just give something. So
I love it.
So it's pretty much like, if you want to talk, you talk. I hope that people really respect that. So I thank you all so much for watching. If you got this far, thank you so much, SynchroEvents, for doing the Base Olympics, and we can finally give more love to the little guys out there in NYC. I'll be emceeing both tonight and next week for the finals. But thank you so much, Lizzy Jane, for coming here and blessing us with your talent. Thanks so much, Sean, Blada, everybody in the team. And this is Lizzy Jr., SynchroEvents. We're all signing out. I love you all so much. Peace.
Bye, guys.